हेलो एवरीवन, वेरी वेरी गुड मॉर्निंग। वेलकम टू टेस्टबुक सुपर कोचिंग फॉर रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज। कैसे आप सब लोग? Yes, so we'll start with the current affairs session where we are going to discuss some important current affairs questions, MCQs, as well as some news directly from the newspaper. But before going to start the session, before going to initiate today's session, I want to tell you one thing. Scholarship for RBI Grade B aspirants announced by our team, and this scholarship test will be on 12th of Jan. So 12th of Jan में ये test होगी. So this test will start from the 8 AM से इस test start होगी, and you can give this test till 11:59 PM. So remember the time frame. In that time frame, you can give the test, and this test will be really very important to get up to 90% scholarship on RBI Grade B super coaching. So remember that. And for the registration, description is already there in the link is already there in the description, so you can go through that particular link जो आपको इस सेशन के डिस्क्रिप्शन में मिल जाएगा, and from there you can register. So a very good opportunity if you are already the part of RBI Grade B super coaching. So please share this information with your friends, with your colleagues, so that they can be the part of this particular course where they can avail up to 90% discount. Okay. We'll start with the session. The first of all, we are going to discuss some important MCQs from the news section, which we already covered, and then we'll move towards the newspaper articles, which can be, which are actually very important for the exam point of view. The first question on your screen. In December, manufacturing PMI declined to 12-month low level of. In today's session, we are going to talk about the service PMI, Purchasing Managers Index. But the numbers here are regarding the manufacturing PMI, and manufacturing PMI's number are not that good, that encouraging. So answer of this question is yes, 56.4 is the answer of this question. 56.4 is the manufacturing PMI right now, Purchasing Managers Index. So the rate of job creation increased in the 4-month high in the month of December, but the manufacturing PMI is going downwards. If the manufacturing PMI is going downwards, it will be definitely having some negative impact on the future progress, because we already know about one thing. If the numbers are above 50, then means the particular business or the particular sector is expanding. But the numbers are less than 50, then the particular sector is contracting. The earlier number was almost cross 60, but now coming down towards 50. So that means this particular sector needs some intervention from the government of India, and that is the criteria. Again, Purchasing Managers Index, which we are calculating. This is calculated by the HSBC, and the actual concept was given by the S&P, Standard & Poor's. They gave this concept. So HSBC and S&P, basically they are helping us to calculate the Purchasing Managers Index. For two sectors we are calculating, for the service sector as well as for the manufacturing sector. The numbers of service sectors are kind of encouraging. The numbers are quite better than these manufacturing numbers, and we are going to talk about the service sector numbers in this session itself. We'll go to the next question. India's capital expenditure declined during the April-November period according to the data from Controller General of Accounts. Controller General of Accounts is the authority of Government of India, kind of a advisory authority to Government of India, to the Finance Ministry regarding the accounts. They gave their data, they gave their the survey, I will say, regarding the India's capital expenditure. Right now, like I already mentioned, that budget is coming in the month of Feb. Before that, many authorities, they are presenting their data, they are presenting their estimations, they are presenting their information. Today we are going to talk about the NSO's data regarding the India's advance estimate. So that is another information important for the exam point of view. Again, survey will be presented at the end of this month. That will be also very important. So recently, the Controller General of Accounts, which is the advisory authority to Government of India regarding the accounting, so they talked about the 12% capital expenditure decline during April-November period, and that is the data they have mentioned. So it's really very important. If the capital expenditure numbers are going down, that means the priority is being changed, and April to November, that is the first, I will say, the half of the financial year will be really very crucial. So numbers are not that good, again given by the Controller General of Accounts. Now, fiscal deficit declined by nearly 6%. There is another factor. Much on the developmental part, because capital expenditure spending is mostly focusing on the developmental part, creating the more and more infrastructure for the country. It should not be declined. ये decline कब होता है? जब when inflation is changing or inflation is increasing, that time obviously we need to focus more on the important items, especially food and other articles, and that time sometimes, or in such kind of situation, government of India or even the state governments, they are changing their focus, they are shifting their focus from such kind of infrastructural development towards the necessity to safeguard the Indian population, to safeguard the Indian economy, and these things usually happens, और यही चीज देखने को मिली है. During the 23-24, the government aims to spend 11.11 lakh crore on the capital expenditure. We saw these numbers during budget. When in the month of July, Government of India presented the budget, that time these numbers were discussed, that time these numbers were released by Government of India. So this data, this survey is given by Controller General of Accounts. Now today we are going to see another survey which is given by the NSO, and that will be really very crucial, where we will get the numbers regarding GDP, regarding the expenditures and the fiscal deficit also. The next question. In November 24, which of the or how many sectors from the core industries were positive? So how many the sectors from the core industries were the positive? We have total 8 core industries in our country, 8 core industries. So out of these 8 core industries, how many were showing the positive signs and kind of a positive numbers? So out of 8, 6 were doing a very good job. So we have 8 core industries: petroleum refinery, okay, having the highest weightage, then electricity generation, steel production, coal, crude oil, natural production, natural gas, I will say natural gas production, then cement and fertilizer. Basically, cement and fertilizers were not showing the positive signs, but rest of the other sectors were showing the positive signs mentioned recently by the Commerce Ministry. The data regarding core industries, the data regarding a separate index regarding core industries given by the Commerce Ministry. There are 2 indices. One is a index of industrial production, where we can get the data of core industry, as well as there is a separate index given by the Commerce Ministry, जहां पे भी हम core industries के ऊपर बात करते हैं. So that is a factor over here. Okay. So answer of this question is 6. Okay. We'll go to the next question. Which of the following banks has also launched 2 new deposit schemes, Har Ghar Lakpati and the Patrons? We talked about this. Okay. It's a very, very easy question. And almost everyone knows. Many of the times the banks, the various banks in our country, especially public sector banks, they're announcing a different deposit policies to attract more and more deposit. जितना ज्यादा deposits banks में increase होगा, so deposit to credit ratio will get a kind of a positive boost for the bank. Because if there is a more deposit, and depending on those deposits banks are lending the money, then the profitability of the banks will get increased. Otherwise, if the deposits are very low and still banks are lending huge amount of money in the market, means banks are borrowing money from the other sources, and that borrowing will cost them higher than the deposits. So that's why deposits, if the increase in deposits will always leads to increase in profitability for the banks, and that is a major reason. And that's why recently SBI launched 2 new policies. One policy is for the individuals above 80, called as the SBI Patrons, and that policy is for those who are above 80. For them, this particular the term deposit will work. And the Har Ghar Lakpati is also the term deposit policy, focusing on the recurring deposits. And Har Ghar Lakpati is created in that way that every RD person, or every person who is going to enroll into this recurring deposit policy will get 1 lakh or more returns. That will be the kind of a structure of this policy. So Har Ghar Lakpati and SBI Patrons, the 2 policies launched by the State Bank of India. CS Setty sir is the chairperson right now. Okay, we'll go to the next question. What is the name of the revamp portal launch for the e-auction properties by the government on 3rd of Jan? So there is a new platform launched by Government of India, especially the Finance Ministry, focusing on public sector banks. If the public sector banks wants to sell their securities, or they want to e-auction some NPA securities or the collaterals, then they can use this platform. For more transparency and for faster resolution of such kind of properties. So e-auction platform launched by the government of India, by the finance ministry, focusing on the public sector banks. So whatever the NPA collaterals, whatever the securities, they can sell those things or they can auction those things through this online mechanism. So answer of this platform is BankNet. BankNet is the name of the platform which was recently announced by the Department of Financial Services under Finance Ministry. Okay, we'll go to the next point. Another thing is that the Department of Financial Services is right now, the secretary of this department is M. Nagaraju sir. He is very much in news these days. He's very much in news because another news we are going to discuss regarding this department in today's lecture, where this department is giving some suggestions to government banks and will be having one meeting with the government banks, and that news will be also very important. So Department of Financial Services is actually a very important department of Finance Ministry because the new policies, the new ideas, the new schemes regarding financial sector will always will be implemented through this department. So M. Nagaraju sir is right now the secretary of this department. We'll go to the next question. DPIIT recently signed MOU with which of the following to promote Indian startup ecosystem globally? So recently they signed agreement with which of the following institution? This institution will help DPIIT to have a communication with the startup companies, to have a proper to get a proper feedback from the startup companies, to have a very good discussion with the startup companies, so that Indian startup companies can grow not only India but globally. That is a major focus. DPIIT is a department from the Commerce Ministry and they are signing many agreements with various startup companies. In the last few days, we discussed about that. For example, one agreement signed with the Flipkart, then Boat, then Tally. We also discussed some previous agreements with the Amazon also. So they are signing agreements with many companies who are established, and now these companies are helping new companies to grow properly. So for that purpose, there should be a proper discussion, and that's why they sign one agreement with one forum called as the Startup Policy Forum. We are Startup India, Stand Up India. Okay, so under that policy, we have one forum. On that forum, basically, various companies are the part of that forum and they're discussing their issues, they're discussing their problems. So DPIIT now become the MOU, or now is having the agreement with this forum, so that the discussion should be very smooth between the startup companies. Their problems can be easily understandable for the government of India, and that is a major focus. They have one concept which is a very beautiful concept called as a SPF Baitak. SPF Baitak is basically, it's kind of a meeting where startup companies are sitting with some experts. The government representatives will be there and they are going to talk, they are going to discuss some issues, and that is a major purpose behind that. So Department of Promotion of Industries and Internal Trade, that is DPIIT, is a department under Commerce Ministry. We'll go to the next question. DGFT has recently notified amendments in the foreign trade policy of which year? Foreign trade policy. We provide foreign trade policy with respect to the 5 years tenure. So 5 साल के हिसाब से foreign trade policy आती है. It was not presented last time due to the COVID-19, and then the new foreign trade policy was introduced in the year 2023. So the answer of this question is 2023, where we introduced the new foreign trade policy. Under this foreign trade policy, some amendments were recommended by many stakeholders, and finally, the Director General of Foreign Trade, that is DGFT, they announced those changes. And what kind of changes are there? So we need to talk about that. The first of all, answer of this question is the 2023. Now, they basically talked about the legal backing to the FTP for consultation with the stakeholders to seek views, suggestions, comments. So what are the feedbacks this foreign trade policy will receive, DGFT will receive regarding foreign trade policy? So that should have the legal backing. It's a very good thing basically. It's a very good idea basically, because if there are some suggestions, some feedbacks, and if the DGFT wants to implement those feedbacks, those suggestions, then there should be a proper legal backing. Otherwise, the conflict can be raised. There can be many questions, or even some government entities can ask them not to follow the suit, and that's why for the legal backing purposes they made some amendment. This is a policy, this is not the act. Okay, if agar ye act hota, so we might be required to take the permission from the parliament, because If we want to make any amendments, any changes in the act, we need to take the permission from the parliament. This is not the act, this is a policy, a 5-year policy presented by the Commerce Ministry. So DGFT is authorized to make some changes in this particular policy, and they did that. So that is the concept over here. Okay. So these were the questions, and through which we discuss few pointers, few news. Now we'll move towards the today's news discussion. Of course, in this session, we usually talked about the important newspaper articles which you people should read and you people should follow. That is a major focus we have. So the first news of the today's session is really very important. It is in PIB also, of course, and it is in every newspaper, every economic and finance newspaper. The news is about the National Statistical Office released the first advanced estimate for the 25. So first advanced estimate for the 25 is in front of us, and according to this first advanced estimate, India's GDP will be 6.4% mentioned by NSO. Yes, Indian GDP growth is going down. We were expecting more than 7% GDP growth, but now the GDP growth is coming down because quarter 2 was not good. Even quarter 3 was not that much successful, which we were expecting. So overall, the growth of our country will be 6.4%. RBI in its monetary policy presentation expected 6.6% growth, but NSO in its the first advanced estimate talked about 6.4%. In the last year, we experienced the growth more than 8%. So if we'll compare with the last year's growth, it was very handsome growth, but now the growth is very bad. So we can see over here, last year 8.2% was the growth. So financial year 25, the growth expectation is 6.4%. So we can see 21 it was in minus because of the COVID-19. In 22 it was 9.1%, 23 7.2%, 24 8.2%. So if we'll see, these are the very good numbers. Now suddenly 6.4%. We were expecting it should be more than 7%. Okay, we were expecting there will be little bit less growth, but 6.4% is actually very less. It was beyond our expectations. But still, if we compare with other countries, India is having a very good growth. Now, this is the real GDP number. 6.4% is the real GDP number. If we talk about the nominal GDP number, nominal GDP numbers are very good. Is 9.7%. So nominal GDP is 9.7% more than last year, but the real GDP numbers are less because the inflation is playing the vital role. The difference between nominal and the real is usually the current situation, the inflationary situation, and that is playing a vital role over here. And due to that, the numbers are not that good. So this is the NSO's number. NSO gave this data, and if NSO is giving this data, so it's kind of a more trustworthy data because their survey is really very good. The data collection is really very good. I'm not saying that RBI's data is not good. RBI is having their own ways of calculations. They are expecting 6.6%. They are a bit optimistic with comparison with the NSO. Now there are other data which are really very important. First of all, the spendings. First of all, the government spending, investment spending, as well as the private spending. So private spending is really good. If we talk about the financial year 25, so the private spending will be 7.3K will be the private spending over here. Government spending will be less, 4.1%, and the investment spending will be 6.4%. When it compares to last financial year 24, private spending is increasing. In the last financial year, private spending was only 4. Now it is 7.3. When it comes to government spending is also increasing in comparison with the last year. It was only 2.5. Now it become the 4.1. Whereas the investment spending is going down. In the last year, investment spending was 9, and this time it will be 6.4%. Remember one thing, okay, these are not my words, the words by the Finance Minister of India, Nirmala ji. In one of her press conference, she mentioned one thing very clearly. If the investment spendings will increase, or if the investment is increased, or investment expenditures will increase, basically the meaning of investment spending means investment expenditure will increase. Okay, means in that situation, government need not to spend more money. The government spending will go down because we are getting enough investment from the market. We are getting enough investment from the international market or the domestic market. So if investments are increasing, then government spending will automatically go down. That's a good sign. That's actually a good sign. If there is no investment spending, if there is no private spending, then the government needs to put extra money in the market, and that will be the criteria. So if we'll see In the year 2022, after COVID-19, investment spending was 22.2. In 23, 11.4. In 24, 9. Now suddenly dropped to 6.4. So investment spending is going down. We saw at the end of this 2024, we saw that continuous crowding out of the investment. So huge investment crowded out from Indian economy, and that created a bad impact on our currency also, as well as the attractive Indian economy, the future also, and that is the things which are mentioned over here. ये point यहाँ पे mention किया गया है. Now we'll talk about the sectors. Agri sector stays resilient. That is another point mentioned in this report. Now there are like 4 sectors they have discussed here: agriculture sector, then manufacturing, then the construction, and the service sector. Like always, service sector is doing a good job. 7.2 is the expectation. Last time it was 7.6, a little bit lesser, 7.2. The construction sector last year was 9.9. This time it is the 8.6. Manufacturing sector is actually going down. Last time it was 9.9, it's 5.3, and the agriculture increased little bit, but still not as per the expectation, 3.8. Last time it was 1.4. So manufacturing sector growth is going down. That is a kind of a concern for us. Like I have already mentioned, PMI was also suggesting the same thing, that manufacturing sector is not performing that well. Even the NSO's data is also saying us telling us the same scenario. ये same चीज यहाँ पे है. These numbers are very crucial. These numbers are very important to understand how Indian economy is running, how Indian economy is working. So जब आप इसको पढ़ोगे, when you are going to read this news, when you are going to read these numbers, please, this is a very good presentation given by Business Standard, a wonderful presentation, and this presentation will help you to read the whole document in a very lesser period of time. You can go to the PIB also. PIB, obviously in the PIB, they give the complete information, but I will suggest you to read that complete information. Will take a huge time of yours. You can also follow such kind of documents presented by many newspapers. So Business Standards document is actually very good, very helpful. So you can follow this. We'll go to the next part of this document, and the next part is about the capex. The consumption jump, the slower capex, the slower capex likely. So capital expenditure is going to be down. Okay, we discussed that just now a few minutes back. We talked about the same point. So this is the another thing, the same thing which I have discussed actually with you. So private final consumption expenditure will be 61.8, which is increasing basically. The government expenditure 10.3, almost similar in comparison with the last year, whereas the capital formation will be lesser than the last year, so it will be 30.1. So capital formation, the capex is going to be slow. Even the finance ministry earlier, even the Nirmala ji also in one of her press conference mentioned about that capex is going down. So she asked state government to focus more on the capital expenditure so that we can achieve a proper growth, a proper development for the country, and the same point is mentioned. So we were expecting this actually. Now we'll come to the fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit is basically the total expenditure minus revenue receipt of Government of India plus non-debt capital receipt of Government of India. So that is called as the fiscal deficit. So basically we are not covering any kind of receipts in the form of debt capital receipt. So हम बाकी जो original receipt है, revenue receipt plus non-debt capital receipt, we are subtracting those into from the total expenditure, and whatever the answer will be there, that much amount of money we need to borrow. उतना हमें borrow करना पड़ेगा. We have one act in our country called as the FRBM Act, Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act, and this act is suggesting that the fiscal deficit of the country should be less than 3% of the GDP. That should be our focus, and even Government of India is keeping that in mind. During COVID-19, this fiscal deficit increased almost nearby double digits, and from that time frame to this time frame, we are trying to reduce the fiscal deficit. Now, this NSO's data is saying that fiscal deficit with respect to GDP for 25, 4.9, and the first advanced estimate is saying 5. So, budget estimate, which was presented in the budget, okay, in the month of July, 2024. The budget estimate is basically talking about 4.9. The first advance estimate given by the NSO is saying 5 will be the fiscal deficit. They are the estimate numbers, they are the expected numbers, and these are again a very important for the exam point of view. Okay, so remember that there should not be any kind of mistake behind this. Again, these are the advance estimate numbers. When survey will come, we are going to get the numbers of the last year के सारे numbers sector wise हमें मिलेंगे, and there will be some expectations mentioned in the survey. When the budget will come, again in budget there will be the budget the estimates, budget estimates, revised estimates, then actuals. These numbers will be there, and those numbers will be also very important for us. So these numbers are going to create a chaotic situation in your mind. Like I have mentioned you earlier that before budget, many surveys, many indices, many numbers will come. Even after the budget, in the month of March also, even in the month of April also, there will be so many reports and the numbers will come, because the financial year is going to end, the new financial year is going to start, and these numbers are going to create the chaotic situation in your mind. कौन सा याद रखना है, कौन सा नहीं रखना है? I will suggest you one thing. First of all, right now, don't worry about the numbers. Right now, there is no need to mug up the numbers. Right now, just compare and just try to understand what they are trying to say. Right now, you need not to mug up any kind of number in the present situation. You just need to understand the news and just need to compare the stuff. That's it. If you want to remember the numbers, first focus on the budget, then focus on the survey, then RBI. Okay, these are the important numbers for our exam point of view. If we think practically about the exam, then budget, survey, and the numbers given by the RBI, they are more important. NSO, of course, what are the numbers government is going to give, what are the numbers economic survey is going to present, will be having a relevance with the NSO. Even the RBI in future going to give some numbers, will be having relevance with the NSO, because NSO is that authority of government of India which is collecting data and providing a certain numbers in a proper calculated manners. That's why, of course, the base will be like this. But again, for the exam point of view, budget, survey and RBI's data will be your major priority. But right now, mug up karne ka tension mat lijiyega. So these are the main pointers which are mentioned in this report, which I have discussed right with you people. So yahan se ek bar aap go through kar sakte ho. This is from the PIB, Press Information Bureau. Now we'll go to the very simple news. Now we saw very heavy news. Now we'll come to the very simple news. CCI, called as the Competition Commission of India. Competition Commission of India is Government of India's authority, was created in 2003 with the Parliamentary Act. It was created with the Parliamentary Act. And the job of Competition Commission of India is that our corporate sector, the companies in this country, should work ethically, should work with a kind of a competitive manner, without any kind of frauds, without any kind of cheating, and that is the job of CCI. CCI is kind of a regulatory institution which is focusing on the ethical working, the moral working of the companies in our country. So this authority is a statutory body working with the help of Corporate Affairs Ministry. So Nirmala Sitharaman ji, Ministry, Corporate Affairs Ministry, is responsible for the functioning of this authority. Ravneet Kaur ma'am, she is the chairperson of CCI right now, and Inderpal Singh Bindra sir is right now secretary of the CCI, the Competition Commission of India. Corporate Affairs Ministry is a very important factor. Now, why it is in news? Tata recently decided to purchase or acquire the majority stakes of the Pegatron. Pegatron is basically a Taiwan-based company. Pegatron is basically Taiwan-based company. Pegatron, Wistron, these companies are very famous for the manufacturing of hardware for the iPhones or the Apple. Apple के hardwares को manufacture करने के लिए Pegatron, Wistron are the famous companies. Pegatron is having their manufacturing plant in India in association with Tata. So Tata and Pegatron, they are working together in India. So the Pegatron's Indian establishment will be having majority stakes from the Tata. Not the Taiwanese establishment. Taiwanese establishment will be in the hands of Pegatron only. But what are the establishment they have in India, Pegatron, that establishment will be having majority stakes from the Tata. And Competition Commission of India gave the green signal for such kind of acquisition. So whenever two companies are going to merge or one company is going to purchase the shares of another company or any kind of joint venture by the two companies, every type of such or every such type of agreement or every such type of initiation should require the permission from the Competition Commission of India, and that's the point mentioned here. That's it. That will be enough for the exam point of view right now. Exim Bank. There is a news of Exim Bank that Exim Bank raises 1 billion via 10-year dollar bonds. Exim Bank is an export-import bank of India, was established in 1982, and now we have the act also in 1981. This Exim Bank Act was created, so it's also a statutory body. It is also called as a AIFI, All India Financial Institution, like NABARD for the agriculture rural development, SEBI for the MSMEs, NHB for the housing, NABFID for the infrastructure, and Exim for the export-import for the trade purpose. So Exim headquarters is in Mumbai. Harsha Bangari ma'am is a chairperson, managing director. So Exim Bank decided to raise $1 billion 10-year through bonds. So external borrowing will be there because they are going to borrow money in dollars, and that money will be from other country. So external borrowing will be there. Remember that factor. Sometimes we saw the news like SBI is borrowing money from the infrastructure bond like 20,000 crore, or the Bank of Baroda is borrowing money from the infrastructure bond or the tier 1 bonds. Such kind of news we saw multiple times. This is the news where they're talking about the $1 billion through the bonds. So of course external borrowing will be there. They are not going to use the masala bond. They are going to use the normal bond for the external commercial borrowing, and that's the point mentioned over here. Simple news, not that difficult. A question can be asked in a static manner. That's why the static information is here for you. That will be enough for the exam. Now, this was the news I was talking about regarding the Department of the Financial Services. So, M. Nagaraju sir is right now the Secretary of Department of Financial Services. This department works under Finance Ministry. So, Finance Ministry to review the flagship schemes with the PSB chief. We have the 12 public sector banks. So all the MDs and CEOs of the public sector banks will sit together and they will have discussion with the Finance Ministry, especially with the M. Nagaraju sir. He will be the representative regarding the flagship schemes of Government of India, which we are implementing through banks. So these are the names of flagship scheme. Government of India के website पे, Finance Ministry के website पे, Department of Financial Services के website पे, they mention these column called as the flagship schemes, and these flagship schemes means important scheme of Government of India which we are implementing through banks. So one of the very famous Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, Atal Pension Yojana, Jeevan Jyoti Suraksha Bima Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, and the Stand Up India. They are the major flagship schemes. Of course, there are other schemes also which we are implementing through the banks, but they are the major flagship scheme. So what is the development in that? What kind of problems we are facing? What should be the future of such kind of schemes? For that purpose, to review all the schemes and their progress and their growth, they'll be meeting with this particular department. Examiner इसके पहले भी ऐसा सवाल पूछ चुका है, and again the examiner can ask the question, which of the following are the flagship schemes which are implemented by the public sector banks on behalf of Government of India or the Finance Ministry? Or question will be like that. Recently, Finance Ministry conducted the review meeting with the heads of the PSBs regarding the flagship schemes implemented by them. Which of the following is or are not the flagship scheme? In that way, they can ask the question. There are other schemes also, like for example, PSB loans in 59 minutes, emergency credit line guarantee scheme, the loan guarantee scheme in the COVID. Now this scheme is being closed, okay, because it was for the COVID purposes. This scheme is also not working in that stronger way. This is working right now. This is a very good scheme, and they are the flagship schemes mentioned by the Government of India. There are other schemes through which banks are helping various sectors to get the loan or to provide the financial support, but according to government's website and according to government's data, they are the major schemes mentioned over here. Even the same information is written here. Even the same information is mentioned over here. तो ये भी थोड़ा ध्यान रखिएगा, ठीक है? ये आपके लिए बहुत जरूरी है. यहाँ पे गड़बड़ ना हो, मिस्टेक ना हो. Now, RBI reviews the cooperative bank's financial statement format. A simple news basically. Recently, RBI notified one thing, that cooperative banks need to change their financial statement format. The standard format which are used by the all banks, which are used by the many companies or many financial institutions, cooperative banks or the cooperative institution using their financial format from 1981. So they are using the format which is very old. The 1981's format they are using. Till now they are using the same format. There are so many changes. We are right now using the global format also in many places. That's why RBI asked all the cooperative institution, cooperative banks to start following the new format for their financial statement, for their accounting. That is the case. That is the only news right now important for us. Okay, right now there is no need to go much in detail about that. Okay, if you are focusing on the specialized post, then it will be important. Otherwise, it will be enough for the exam point of view. The another RBI direction, and this direction is for the credit information companies. Credit information companies like CRISIL is one of the very famous credit information companies. So there are so many credit information companies working in our country. RBI notified one thing or one direction to the CICs. The direction is that suppose someone is checking the credit score for me. Okay, suppose I'm the person who wants to take the loan, and I'm applying for some loan from some bank or NBFC. Bank and NBFC obviously going to check my credit score. If someone is going to check my credit score, I will get the information that someone is looking to my credit score. Okay, and that information should be there, because so many times what happens, if you are regularly checking the credit score, it is going to impact your credit score also. Okay, credit score आपका थोड़ा कम हो जाता है. And sometimes people are taking the PAN card number of few people and at random checking their credit score. It is going to impact the credit score of that particular person. So such kind of things are happening very regularly, and that's why RBI asked CICs that inform or give the alert. The alert shall be sent by CIC only when the CIR inquiry reflects in the CIR of the customer. So alert should be there. CIC को alert देना पड़ेगा कि भाई who is checking or your credit score is being checked, so that there should be a proper transparency, and that is a major thing mentioned over here. याद रखना. Credit information companies are basically like CRISIL is one of the very famous institution. They are collecting the data that किसने लोन लिया, कब वापस किया, exactly उनका रिटर्न कैसा है, so NPS है नहीं है, so उसकी वजह से आपका क्रेडिट स्कोर पता चलता है, and it's really very crucial. Again, another thing they have mentioned over here, the complaints. If suppose there are complaints and the complaints is not being resolved on the proper time, there will be a fine. There will be a fine. So 100 per calendar day, a fine will be implemented. Not working day, calendar day. Okay, suppose for example, I have some complaint, I filed the complaint. Within 30 days, the complaint should be solved. If the complaint, they are not able to solve the complaint within 30 days, then after that, 100 rupees per calendar day, the fine will be imposed. Not working day. Like, किसी ने बोल दिया सैटरडे संडे को कैलकुलेट नहीं करेंगे, so they mention clearly 100 per calendar day in case of the complaint is not resolved within the period of 30 calendar days from the date of initial filing. It is also mentioned by the RBI. These two major things they have changed for the sake of customer, for the sake of common individual, and these are the another important points for the exam point of view. The new scheme is coming. Scheme alert. Scheme alert. Mostly in the month of Feb or during the budget, the new scheme will come, and our road and transport minister Gadkari Saab mentioned that the modified scheme to offer cashless treatment for accident victims. इंडिया के रोड एक्सीडेंट्स में काफी लोगों की डेथ होती है. According to World Bank, 11% of road accident deaths are happening only in our country, only in India. 11% of the world numbers are only happening in our country. So if the road accident victims, they require some medical support, of course they will require the medical support, so that medical support will be cashless treatment support, and that is the idea presented by the road and transport ministry. Exactly what will be the name of the scheme, how the scheme is going to work, it will be there in the budget, like according to Gadkari Saab, that till the March government is going to implement this scheme. If the till March government is going to implement the scheme, so mostly announcement will be in the budget, or might be after the budget in the cabinet meeting, but chances are there in budget there will be a new scheme regarding the road accident victims cashless treatment. That will be really very important. Mostly 1.5 lakh up to 1.5 lakh treatment will be cashless. That is the point he mentioned in one of his speech. Let's see what what the scheme is going to mention. Now, the last news of the day, services PMI hit 4 months high in December. Like I was talking about, service sector is performing really very well. when it comes to the manufacturing sector, we can see the downward direction growth, but when it comes to the service sector PMI, the growth is encouraging, 59.3. In the Jan 2024, it was 61.8. Then after that, you can see the numbers were going down. The numbers were very bad, especially in the October, November. Now the numbers are getting up and it is 59.3. We are expecting Jan, Feb and March numbers can cross 60. That is the expectation by many authorities. If the service sector is actually a very strong point of India. So always service sector is there to help India. Still service sector is helping India when the manufacturing and agriculture is not performing that well. So it is a really very good point. This is the article which you should read, because Finance Ministry pushes banks and NBFCs to back large infra projects. So basically, Government of India is asking banks to provide more and more infrastructure loans. NABFID is there. Okay, so NABFID के suggestion के ऊपर ये बात हुई है. So it is just an article to read, not exactly for the question point of view. This is also the article you should go through. एक बार इसको भी read कीजिएगा. Morgan Stanley in 2021 announced one thing, that they are going to introduce Indian bond index, and the last year they officially introduced the Indian bond index, but now the Indian bond index is not performing that well, which was expected by many people. So regarding that, the article is there, so please go through this article once. एक बार इस article से go through कीजिएगा. Some other news also included, like $3 billion will be invested by the Microsoft in India's AI infrastructure. So Indian AI first. For that purpose, Microsoft is going to invest $3 billion in next 2 years. Satya Nadella, he was in India, so he talked about the cloud computing and the AI future with the Prime Minister of India also. And after that, he announced $3 billion will be invested in Indian market. Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is going to be start from the today. Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is we celebrate on the 9th of January every year, because in 1915, Gandhiji first time entered India from South Africa as a NRI, as a Pravasi Bharatiya. So that's why 9th of Jan every year we celebrate as a Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. So the celebration started from today itself, 8, 9 and 10, 3 days. The celebration will be there in Bhubaneswar, this time in Odisha, and Prime Minister of India is going to inaugurate that. So that is the news for you. This is another news. Indonesia officially become the full member of the BRICS. So Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran and UAE, these are the full members after Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Now Indonesia also become the full member of the BRICS. In 2024, the BRICS meeting was in Russia. That time it was announced, but official entry to Indonesia is being given right now. So remember that factor. In 2009, these developing countries came together and created the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa group. In 2024, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, UAE become the part of this group. We also ask Argentina to be the part of this group, but they denied, and now Indonesia become the part. In future, Turkey, Azerbaijan and Malaysia will be the part of this BRICS called as a Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. V. Narayanan will become the new chairperson of the ISRO. So S. Somnath sir is going to retire this month on the 14th of Jan, and after that V. Narayanan sir will become the new chairperson of the ISRO. Yesterday, the Cabinet Committee for Appointment, they decided that Cabinet Committee of Appointment is headed by Prime Minister of India, and they finalized his name, and he will be the next chairperson of ISRO for next 2 years. So next 2 साल के लिए ये chairperson रहेंगे. Many big projects, many big things are lined up for the ISRO. So let's hope for the better in his chairmanship, in his presidency. So he will be the new head of ISRO. That's all guys from my side for the day. So remember one thing, on the 12th of Jan, this scholarship test will be there, and the scholarship test will start from the 8 a.m. You just need to register yourself, and then you are going to get the link, the registration form. The link of the registration form is in description. So go through that. If you get the very good marks, you are going to get the scholarship up to 90% on the RBI Grade B Super Coaching. That's all guys from my side. We'll see you in the next session. Till that time, bye bye. Take care.